Hey, recently I've been quite enamored with this weaving, and I got myself a Zoom loom, and I've woven a few squares. Now, there are enough videos out there to show you guys how to use this Zoom loom or whatever loom that you buy. So, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show you how to make some different clothing out of it, perhaps a shrug or a jacket, perhaps something like that, just ways and means to use up these 4 by 4 squares. I used a variegated yarn, and these particular squares use very little yarn, so you can have a quite a you can use up all your scrap yarn actually and make projects with this, but this one I use a size 3.5 to 4 millimeter yarn, crochet hook or knitting needle size yarn. I noticed that I think that if you use anything thicker than that, it will be quite impossible to weave the final bit, when you're doing the final row. And so I think that once I've done, I'm going to have to do about 60 for this pattern that I'm thinking of doing. It's a shrug. And once I've gotten the 60, what I'm going to do is I'm going to whip stitch these pieces together, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to make up the shrug. Okay, what I was thinking of doing is a woven shrug, and these are the measurements of the woven shrug. They will be here. The important thing that you have to keep in mind is that each of these squares that you'll be working with is only 4 by 4. So because they're 4 by 4, all the patterns that you work will have to work within the 4 by 4 measurement. See, 52 is divisible by 4, and so is 60. This part here, if you are small to medium, I think you can use 52, and 60 is for a larger size. So this is up to you how much you want to do this part. So for a small to medium size person, 52 inches is just nice. And here again, I've also changed between 24 and 28, and same thing here. This is 24 to 28 is the whole length from here to here, and here just this part is between 12 to 16 and 12 to 16. So 16, the figures in the brackets are for a larger size. So for this piece here, 52, if you divide it by 4 is 13, and here 12 divided by 4 is 3. So it's 39 squares you will have to join them up and make this part. And here will be another 21 squares will make up this part. So all in all, you will need 60 squares. Now once you have 60 squares and you whip stitch them according to this shape, that means a T shape like this, you will then fold it down. That means here, this part down to here, this part down to here, so that it looks like this. Sew up the sides, leaving an armhole for you to put your arm through, about maybe 7.5, 8 inches. You leave a gap here. This part here you sew up, and your shrug is done. It's as simple as that. Yes, when I was talking to you earlier about the measurements for the larger size, I made a mistake here, but you can't go up to 32, it'll become rather big. So what you have to do is you have to decide which you want to have to 16. You can have either 16 here or 16 here, but the other one has to be a 12. So you have to follow here. If you make it 16 here, it'll match with this 16, and here you'll have to make it 12. So 12 and 16 will add up to 28, So that's important. I made a mistake, I went and added the 4 just like that. Like I was saying, you see, because these squares, they're all always 4 by 4 when you finish them, whatever patterns that you can make with them. And mind you, there are so many designs that you can try out, with these little weave pieces that you can do. They've got some examples on Pinterest, and do some searches and you'll come across houndstooth and various different diagonal combination of colors and everything. And there's another thing also that I want to show you. Okay, the thing that I wanted to show you is this. I think many of you are already aware of this thing. This is called a pot holder loom, you know. I got it very cheap of Amazon, you know, one of their sellers. I think I only paid like a few euro only for it, you know, because it's made out of plastic and it comes with this giant hook, you know. And what you can do, you see, is that I think it's very shabby, you know, this one really. No, but it was very, very cheap, so I think that, you know, the quality is quite dubious. But you know, you can buy metal pot holder looms also, you know. Now, this one, the issue usually is these corners here, you know. Because then, you know, there will be a big gap when you try to do some of the pieces. But there is a weaver, I think her name is Noreen Croft Finlay, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I'll put the link in my video when I'm done. She teaches you a method of even making a diagonal weave on this, you know. And this is larger. You can get about a 7-inch finished square from this, you know, which is really great. But you have to use thicker yarn. Or, you know, you use like worsted, you use 2 strands when you do the thing, and you get a nice thick weave from this, you know. So you can also make patterns with this, you know. Like some of the knitted patterns that I have shown, I will come up with some patterns, and I'll come out do a few more videos on maybe a jacket and try and do a sweater also, you know, try and do something like that. We see how it goes, like, you know, whether I'm able to actually design something with this little weave thing. This is small, you see, so whenever you're trying to do something, even if you fold it in like that for those parts where you feel that you want a shorter part, you know, you can actually fold it in and it really won't even make that much of a difference, you see. But with this thicker piece like this, you won't be able to do that, you see. So you have to have measurements that are divisible by 7, you know, when you do the pattern. So of course, whatever you do, whatever you want to make, create a shrug or a shawl, or even if you want to go ahead and try and make a poncho or whatever, you must make sure that your measurements are within what you create with these looms, you know, these things that you weave with these very fascinating stuff, like, you know. I like this thing, you know. I don't know whether this pot holder loom is going to work very well, and I haven't used it yet, and it's got all these imperfections all over. I'm sure it's going to catch on my yarn. Well, maybe I'll file it down with something. Okay, I just thought I'd show you how to join some of these squares together. First of all, let me take the needle out. This needle actually came with the loom, you know, the Zoom loom. So they even gave 2 pins in case the pins come off. It would be terrible. I'd rather they didn't come off ever. Okay. I didn't put my Zoom loom in the handy little case they gave because it was made out of paper, cardboard, you know. It's not really very good to use something like that. Now these squares, they all have one side in this like this, you know, and actually both sides look fine, you know. There's no back and front really. So when you do them, try as much as possible to have these like this, you know. So probably you want to use, don't really know which one I want to use. Okay, let's just see whether I have enough to join one. So this is there, this is here. Okay, the one that I you know, the part where you go round and round 5 times, that's the one I got the longer one, you know. Initially I actually went and sewed in these, and then I realized, you know, why don't I use them for sewing, you see. So then I stopped doing that. I'll just give you a small indication of how to do this. You can either do this with the needle that is whip stitching it, or you can use a crochet hook. Let me see. Let's try one with a crochet hook first, okay? Alright, now you take one from one side. I'm only going through these loops, you know, the one outside. Each one, I think there are 2 of them. So you take one loop here and then you join it to this one, pull it through, and then go through the next loop, go through the next loop here. I'm using single crochet, yeah. Then go through the next loop here, pick up the next loop here. Hope you can see what I'm doing. And this loop here, go through this loop here. Actually the crochet is easier, faster, you know, and if you make a mistake it's also very much easier to remove it than it is if you were to use a needle and thread. Let's have a look how it looks. Okay, what happens is that here on one side you will have a ridge, you know. So if you don't want to use that side, you can use this side. See, this side doesn't even appear, it's a small line only. So you can use this method of sewing it if you want. If you don't want this method, see how easy it is to take it out. Alright, now if you don't want this method, then you thread the needle through. And then you place them side by side. Okay. Another one here. It's the short one. So this is the long one. Put that one there. So what you do is, now here you can see there are two, right? One here and this one is the other one. So what you do is, you pick up the same one from this side, the one on the side, this one, you see, because there are two, right? So you take this one. Then you go to the next one and you pick up this one, the next one here. You whip stitching, you know, this is called whip stitching. You don't tighten it too much, you know, just a very loose, not terribly loose, but don't tighten it too much. If you tighten it, it'll all pucker up, you know, so don't do that. I prefer crochet lah. Maybe I think I'll do the crochet. I'm not going to whip stitch. Crochet is faster. Yeah, crochet is way faster. I always like crocheting, you know. I think crochet also gives a very nice edge. You see, but then you see this one, there's no, you can't even see the join. So well hidden it is, you know. But anyway, this is one way of doing it. And see, on the other side is not even seen. Okay, so I hope that's one in shown you how to join the squares. Yeah, I found out that my thread wasn't long enough to do crochet, so it looks like I have to whip stitch them. Next time when I make these squares, now I've already done 60 of them like this, I will leave a longer tail so that I can crochet them. So this time I'm going to have to whip stitch them. Now when I was talking about the crochet, I said I was single crocheting. I was wrong. I was actually slip stitching them. So what you do is, if you have thread enough, you slip stitch if you want to use a crochet. Otherwise you whip stitch, or if you really want a completely invisible seam, use the mattress stitch. Okay, this is the lower part of the shrug. Now as a result of joining these 4x4 squares, actually these 4x4 squares, I think they're a little bit smaller than the 4x4. So This way it has become 27 inches, and this way it's 11 and a half. So when you're making the adjustments to your size, take into account that when you join them up, they are slightly smaller than what, they will be shorter than the addition that you would make. Let's say here there are 7 pieces, 7 times 4 should have given you 28, but what it gave me instead was 27. So take that into account when you're doing the joining and calculating the measurements for your own shrug. Once you've joined all the 60 pieces like this in the T shape, okay, it will look like that. You take this corner here, bring it down, straighten it here, join here, and leave a gap from here to here of about 7 inches. Okay, if you've got thicker arms, then you make it 7 and a half. Right? Do that for that side and do the same for this side. I know I have a lot of loose yarn everywhere, but there. So once you join it, it will look like that. Okay, make the 2 armholes here.